We live in a world where stress hits fast and emotions run high, but what if I told you that peace isn't found by avoiding the chaos, it's found by learning how to move with it? Today we're diving into a mindset shift, one that doesn't fight pressure head on but redirects it with calm strength. This isn't about pretending things don't bother you, it's about mastering the emotional space between reaction and response. Like a form of mental Aikido, you'll learn how to stand firm, stay grounded, and let negativity pass without piercing your peace. Let's begin right there, where your power truly lies. We've been conditioned to believe that every emotion requires an instant response. That if someone says something offensive, we need to defend ourselves immediately. If life throws a curveball, we need to react right now. But what if the real strength isn't in reacting, it's in waiting See, stillness is misunderstood. People think it's weakness, hesitation, or passivity. But stillness is none of those things. Stillness is restraint that's grounded in clarity. It's choosing not to be pulled by the first emotional wave that crashes in. It's that quiet space between what happens and what we do next, and it's in that space where we reclaim our power. When stress shows up, whether it's a sharp comment from a colleague, an unexpected setback, or the weight of too many responsibilities, our natural instinct is to tense up, strike back, or spiral into panic. That reaction is primal, it's survival mode thinking, but we're not just surviving here, we're learning to live with purpose. We're learning to lead ourselves first, and to do that, we start with stillness. Think about a martial artist standing calm before their opponent makes a move. They don't flinch, they don't guess, they wait not because they're unsure, but because they're locked in. Focus, that's the same posture we need emotionally. When life pushes, we don't push back immediately, we breathe. We observe, we center ourselves in the moment. That single pause, it changes everything, because here's the truth, emotions are like wind. They rise quickly, they move fast, but they also pass. If we can remain still while the gust blows through, we stop ourselves from making decisions based on temporary storms. How many times have we said something we regretted, simply because we didn't give ourselves 5 seconds of stillness? How often have we carried tension from one moment into the next, simply because we didn't slow down long enough to let it go? I've seen people lose their peace not because of what happened, but because of how fast they reacted. They let the moment take over, but that moment didn't deserve that much power. Stillness gives us back the steering wheel. Now let's be honest, it's not easy. Stillness takes training. It takes being intentional with your breath. It takes being willing to sit with discomfort instead of trying to escape it. And it takes trust that you don't need to control every outcome right now. Trust that your peace is more valuable than winning an argument. Trust that your silence, when it's grounded, is louder than any shout. This stillness also creates clarity, because when you don't react immediately, you start to see. You see what's actually being said beneath the words, you recognize your own emotional patterns, you begin to notice, this isn't about me, or this person is speaking from their own pain, or even, I don't need to carry this energy forward. That clarity only comes in stillness. It doesn't arrive when we're rushing, fighting, or flailing. It only enters when we pause. And here's something even deeper. Stillness isn't just an outer action, it's an inner posture. You can be silent on the outside but screaming inside. That's not stillness. Real stillness is when your mind, your breath, and your spirit line up. It's when your inner world slows down long enough to hear your own wisdom again. That voice that reminds you who you are, that voice that says, this moment isn't bigger than you. And when you cultivate that, when you train yourself to meet pressure with peace, not panic, you become a different kind of force in the world. People notice it, your energy shifts, you stop being reactive and start being responsive, and that responsiveness is powerful because it's measured. It's thoughtful, it's not based on fear, it's based on truth. I want you to take this into your everyday life. When someone cuts you off in traffic, pause. When a loved one says something that triggers you, breathe. When the pressure at work feels like it's closing in, step back for a moment, create space. That space will save you. That space will become your shield. It's not that you're doing nothing, it's that you're doing the most important thing. Choosing your next move with intention. There is no badge for the fastest reaction. but there is peace for the most grounded response. And that peace isn't found in noise, it's found in stillness. That's where emotional Aikido begins, not in the counterattack, not in the retreat, but in the pause that lets you choose your peace every single time. Most people go through life thinking they have to absorb everything that comes their way, every rude comment, every angry outburst, every opinion, expectation, or demand. They carry it like emotional baggage, shoulders tense, mind cluttered, spirit heavy. But emotional Aikido teaches something different. It teaches us that energy, especially emotional energy, can be redirected. You don't have to take it in. You don't have to hold it. You can feel it, notice it, and let it move past you, not through you. This isn't about being numb or cold, it's the opposite. It's about staying open without letting the world bruise you every time it brushes against you. Think about a verbal attack, someone criticizing you unfairly or trying to provoke a reaction. The natural instinct is to push back, defend, retaliate. But all that does is trap you in their storm. You've now made their energy your own, but when you practice redirection, you step into a different posture. You see their energy for what it is, an offering, not a command, and just because someone offers you anger doesn't mean you have to pick it up. You can let it pass, you can respond calmly, or not respond at all. That's not weakness, that's control. Think of it like this: you're not a sponge, you're not here to soak up everything that's thrown at you. You're more like a mirror, present, aware, but not absorbing. A mirror doesn't argue, a mirror reflects, and that reflection, if grounded in peace, can disarm more than any defensive words ever could. When someone comes at you emotionally, they're often looking for a place to unload. They want a reaction to validate their chaos. But if you give them stillness, if you give them calm, they are left holding their own energy. That's powerful. Because now, instead of you being affected, they're confronted with their own emotion, and sometimes that alone is enough to shift the atmosphere. Redirecting energy also means not internalizing everything. Just because someone is upset doesn't mean you did something wrong. Just because someone's disappointed doesn't mean you failed. We live in a world where emotions are loud, fast, and often misplaced. People project, they vent, they deflect, and if you're not careful, you'll end up carrying emotions that don't even belong to you. So here's a practice. Whenever you feel tension entering your space, ask yourself, is this mine? Is this stress, frustration, fear mine to hold? Or is it something I can acknowledge and let move on? That simple question becomes a boundary, a filter. And over time, it trains your mind to stop over-identifying with every emotion that shows up. You start learning how to observe without absorbing. You begin to watch someone's anger without feeling like you have to shrink in response. You hear criticism and sift it, keeping what's true, letting the rest fall away. That's what redirection looks like in practice. It's not apathy, it's discernment. And here's what's beautiful: when you stop absorbing negative energy, you create space for the good. Peace doesn't live in a crowded heart. Clarity doesn't show up in a cluttered mind. You have to clear room. And you do that by being intentional about what you allow in. Some days, that means staying quiet instead of snapping back. Other days, it means choosing to respond with curiosity instead of judgment. Sometimes it's a breath, other times it's a boundary. But in all cases, it's a choice, a conscious decision not to be moved by everything that tries to shake you. People will say things, people will misunderstand you, circumstances will test you, but that doesn't mean you have to lose yourself in the process. Let their energy be theirs, let the world be loud, but let your soul stay quiet, because from that quiet place, you begin to lead differently. You stop needing to control the external, because you've mastered the internal, and that's the deeper lesson of emotional Aikido. It's not about becoming emotionally distant. It's about becoming emotionally wise. It's about knowing that not every emotion is yours to fix, every tension is yours to carry, or every battle is yours to fight. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stand firm and let the noise pass by, because when you stop absorbing, you start becoming. Becoming calm, becoming resilient, becoming centered in a way that people feel just by being near you. That's the energy shift we're after, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we encounter. And when you live that way, when you learn to redirect instead of absorb, you don't just protect your peace. You become the peace. There's a quiet kind of power that comes when you know who you are. Not based on what others say, not based on how your day's going or how someone treated you, but based on an unshakable truth deep inside. That's your center, that's your anchor, and without it, life will toss you around like a leaf in the wind. Stress always finds its way in when we're disconnected from that inner truth. You start questioning your worth because someone didn't see it. You start doubting your purpose because circumstances didn't go as planned. You begin reacting to everything around you because nothing within you feels stable. And that's when peace becomes hard to find, because you're looking for it in the wrong places. You can't chase peace in people's opinions. You won't find it in the next win, the next apology, the next external fix, because the world changes too fast and people are too unpredictable. That kind of peace doesn't last. What does last is identity, when it's rooted in something deeper than emotion, deeper than approval, deeper than circumstances. That's where your emotional Aikido begins to evolve, because when you're anchored, you don't have to fight for control, you already have it. You're not scrambling to prove anything, because you know exactly what you carry. That truth becomes your center of gravity. And when the world pulls at you, it's that truth that holds you steady. People can say what they want. Storms can roll in, but when you know you're not defined by any of it, you stop getting swept up in the noise. You start standing taller, speaking calmer, responding slower, because you're not reacting from a place of fear, you're responding from a place of clarity. But here's the challenge: most people don't slow down long enough to even find that truth. They're too busy trying to keep up, please everyone, check every box, prove their value. And that constant motion creates distance from your center. It's like trying to hear your own voice in a crowded room. It gets drowned out. That's why stillness matters. That's why redirection matters. They clear the space for you to come back to yourself. And when you return to that space, you're reminded of the truths that don't shift with mood or moment. You remember that you're not what happened to you. You're not someone else's projection. You're not the worst thing you've done or the best compliment you've received. You're deeper than that. You're built on something stronger, and that strength, it doesn't shout, it doesn't need attention. It just is. It's quiet, but immovable, and from that place, you begin to carry yourself differently. Stress doesn't stick to you the same way. Offense doesn't land with the same weight. Disappointment doesn't wreck you like it used to, because you're not just trying to survive anymore, you're grounded. You've stopped outsourcing your peace. You've stopped letting others decide how you feel about yourself. You've planted your feet in something real. It shows in the small things, like not taking things personally, even when they feel personal, like forgiving without needing closure. Like saying a no without guilt or a yes without fear. You begin making decisions not out of pressure, but out of alignment. You stop needing to chase and start choosing, and over time, that anchored presence becomes something people notice. They feel safer around you, not because you fix everything, but because you're not moved by everything. You become someone others can lean on, not because you have all the answers, but because you're not trying to be anything other than who you are. That authenticity is magnetic, but more importantly, it's freeing. It frees you from emotional exhaustion, from performing, from bending yourself to fit every environment. You stop being a reflection of your circumstances and start being a reflection of your conviction. That's peace, not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of identity. So when life throws something at you, a misunderstanding, a betrayal, a failure, you don't collapse, you don't panic, you breathe. You return to that center. You remind yourself, this may shake me, but it won't break me, because it can't. You're too rooted for that. That's the posture emotional Aikido gives you. It's not about becoming indifferent, it's about becoming stable. It's not about ignoring pain, it's about not letting pain write the truth of who you are, and that truth, once it's fully owned, it becomes the lens you see everything through. You stop asking, why is this happening to me, and start asking, what can this teach me without stealing my peace? You stop needing control and start cultivating strength. And when you live from that place, when you move through life anchored in who you are, stress may still knock, but it doesn't get to come in. Because peace is no longer something you visit occasionally, it's where you live. There's a misunderstanding that often gets in the way of emotional strength. People think that in order to protect your peace, you have to cut yourself off, disconnect, withdraw, build emotional walls so high that nothing gets through, not even the good. But the truth is, peace isn't found in isolation, it's found in balance, and in emotional Aikido, that balance looks like detaching without disconnecting. What that means is this: you don't have to disappear to stay centered, you don't have to stop caring to stop carrying everything. You can be fully present with someone's pain, deeply involved in the moment, and still not take on what doesn't belong to you. That's the difference between empathy and enmeshment. One honors the boundary, the other dissolves it. So many people feel overwhelmed because they think love means absorbing. That compassion requires carrying, that to prove you care, you have to wear every burden like it's your own. But emotional Aikido teaches you to stand in the middle of the storm with open hands, not clenched fists, not locked arms, just open hands. Available, but not attached, attentive, but not entangled. You can show up for someone without letting their chaos become your chaos. You can listen without internalizing. You can walk with someone through their valley and still protect your own light. That kind of presence doesn't distance you from others, it actually allows you to serve them better, because you're coming from a place of wholeness, not depletion. The truth is, when we try to carry what's not ours, we eventually drop what is ours: our peace, our purpose, our clarity. And often, we don't even realize it's happening. It starts small. A conversation leaves you feeling drained, someone else's anxiety becomes your own. You lie awake at night thinking about things you can't fix. That's not compassion, that's overextension, that's a heart without boundaries. But there's another way you can draw the line, not out of rejection, but out of respect, respect for yourself, and even for the other person. Because when you carry someone's load for them, you might be getting in the way of what they need to grow through. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not absorb, not because you don't care, but because you do, and you know that peace doesn't spread through panic. It spreads through presence. It's about emotional posture. When you walk into a room full of tension, you don't have to match that tension. When someone's on edge, you don't have to live on edge too. You can be the steady one, the grounded one, not because you're trying to fix it, but because you're refusing to lose yourself in it. That's what detachment without disconnection looks like. It's standing close without sinking in. Think about the strongest people you know, the ones who make you feel safe, understood, heard. They don't flinch, they don't rush to fix everything, they simply are fully present, fully aware, but not consumed. That kind of calm is rare, and it comes from doing the inner work of knowing where you end and someone else begins. And here's what's beautiful: when you learn this balance, your relationships actually deepen, because people feel the difference. You're no longer reacting from emotion, but responding from intention. You're no longer tangled in their pain, but walking beside it. You become more available because you're less overwhelmed. And that availability is sustainable. It doesn't burn you out, because you're rooted in peace, not performance. You begin to trust that you don't have to carry someone to love them. That your worth isn't in how much weight you can bear, but in how consistently you can show up with peace. You understand that your presence is the gift, not your rescue, not your solutions, just your being, and that changes everything. But this kind of detachment takes practice, it takes awareness, it takes recognizing when you've started to cross that line, when care has turned into control, or when empathy has become emotional exhaustion. And when that happens, you don't shame yourself, you just return, you come back to center, you remind yourself that peace isn't selfish, it's sacred. And maintaining it allows you to be a better listener, a better friend, a better human. Some moments will test this. People will ask more than you can give, some will misread your calm for indifference, but you hold the line, not with coldness, but with clarity. Not with distance, but with discernment. You say, I'm here, but I won't lose myself here. That's not detachment. That's wisdom, and in time, you begin to live with a lighter heart, not because the world got easier, but because you stopped trying to hold what was never yours to begin with. You no longer see boundaries as walls, but as bridges, bridges that allow connection without collapse. That's the way of emotional Aikido. It's the art of staying close without losing yourself, caring deeply without carrying endlessly, being present, but not pierced. And that's where true peace begins to grow, right in the space where you stay grounded, even as you walk with others through their storm. The mind is like a muscle. You don't strengthen it by waiting until the weight is heavy. You build it through daily reps. Small, consistent patterns, intentional habits, quiet disciplines that don't look impressive on the outside but build unshakable resilience on the inside. That's how you prepare for stress. That's how you deflect it before it ever has the chance to take hold. Not with a last-minute reaction, but with trained redirection. Too often, we wait until we're overwhelmed before we try to center ourselves. We wait until the emotions are too loud, the pressure too much, the anxiety too real, and by then, we're trying to build shelter in the middle of the storm. It's not impossible, but it's harder, much harder. The better way is to prepare for the storm while the sky is still clear. And that preparation doesn't have to be complicated. It starts with what you do every day, what you allow into your mind, how you frame your thoughts, where you set your focus. One of the most powerful tools is mental reframing. It's the practice of shifting how you see a situation, not to deny what's happening, but to direct how you interpret it. Stress often grows in the gap between what we expect and what we experience. We wanted ease and we got resistance. We wanted praise and we got silence. We wanted certainty and we got chaos. But in that moment, you get to choose your meaning. You get to say, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. That shift doesn't remove the stress, but it neutralizes its power. It keeps you from spiraling because now you're in charge of the story. Another technique is breath anchoring. It sounds simple, and it is, but that doesn't make it less powerful. Because when stress hits, the breath is the first thing we lose. It becomes shallow, rushed, or held. But when you return to your breath, you return to your body, and when you return to your body, you return to the present. You can't be grounded in the now and panicked about the future at the same time. They don't coexist. So in those moments when emotions spike, stop and breathe. Deep, slow, intentional breaths. That's not just calming. It's training your nervous system to stay steady when life isn't. Then there's gratitude substitution. This isn't about slapping positivity on pain. It's about rewiring the way your brain processes difficulty. When something frustrating happens, traffic, delay, disappointment, your default response might be irritation, but what if you practiced replacing that with one small moment of gratitude? Not to pretend everything's fine, but to remind yourself it's not all bad, that even in stress, you can choose to see light. It might be as simple as, I'm grateful I get another chance to practice patience, or, I'm grateful this challenge is building something in me I can't yet see. That mindset doesn't change the circumstance, it changes you in the circumstance, and that's the deeper goal here, not to escape pressure, but to become the kind of person who doesn't break under it. That takes daily conditioning. You wouldn't walk into a black belt test without months of training, so why walk into a hard day without strengthening your inner world first? Start small, 5 minutes of silence in the morning before the world speaks to you, 1 moment in your day where you reframe a complaint into a lesson. 1 breath before you respond to stress. Over time, these become your automatic responses. They're no longer forced, they're formed. They don't just happen when life gets hard, they're ready when life gets hard. What you're doing is rewiring your defaults. Because most of us live by reaction, not intention, we're pulled by emotion, hijacked by stress, led by habit. But when you train your mind daily, you interrupt that cycle. You step in before the panic takes over. You don't wait until you're drowning to remember how to swim. You practice while the water's still calm. This doesn't mean you won't still feel things deeply. You will. It doesn't mean stress won't show up. It will, but now you have tools, you've prepared, you've built a kind of emotional muscle memory that kicks in when you need it most. People will wonder how you stay so calm, how you keep perspective, how you seem to bounce back instead of break down. And the truth is, it's not magic, it's muscle, it's daily discipline, and it's available to anyone willing to show up for themselves, day after day, even in the smallest ways. So don't wait until life forces you to focus. Choose focus now, choose clarity now, choose training now. Because peace isn't a place you visit, it's a skill you build, 1 practice at a time. There's something powerful about a person who walks into a room and doesn't need to announce themselves, because their presence already did. Not because they're loud, not because they're demanding attention, but because there's a quiet strength about them, a calm that feels unshakable. And in today's world, where emotions fly fast and pressure is everywhere, that kind of presence is rare. It's rare because it's built, not born, and it's built on peace. Your presence is energy. You carry it into every conversation, every room, every relationship. And whether you realize it or not, people can feel it. Some people walk in and bring anxiety with them. Others bring tension, fear, or chaos, but then there are those who bring something else. They bring stillness, they bring clarity. They bring peace, and that's not something you create in the moment. It's something you become through practice, through the way you think, the way you speak, the way you handle what doesn't go your way. Emotional Aikido isn't just about how you protect your peace, it's about how you project it, because when you learn to deflect stress, to stand centered in your identity, to stay rooted instead of reactive, that becomes your default setting. You don't have to try to be calm, you are calm, not because life is easy, but because you've trained yourself to carry peace like armor. You don't need to talk over people to be heard, you don't need to dominate a conversation to lead it. You just need to be intentional with your tone, slow with your words, thoughtful with your energy. That kind of presence disarms people. It creates safety, it builds trust, not because you had the loudest voice, but because yours was the one rooted in calm. And calm doesn't mean emotionless, it doesn't mean you're cold or removed, it means your emotions aren't leading, you are. You've learned to feel without becoming overwhelmed, you've learned to stay soft without being fragile, and in that balance, you carry a kind of authority the world is starving for. You can feel when someone's done the work, when they've gone through fire and come out grounded instead of bitter. When they've been misunderstood, rejected, challenged, but they didn't let that change who they are, they let it deepen who they are. That's presence, that's what people remember long after the words are gone, and you build that kind of presence in the quiet moments. Not just in public, but in how you talk to yourself when no one's listening, how you handle stress when no one sees. How you return to your breath again and again, even when it feels like the world is spinning. That's the foundation, that's the training ground, and it shows up when you need it most, because one day, someone else's storm is going to walk into your life. A heated moment, a broken heart, a chaotic situation, and in that moment, your energy will either add to the storm or settle it. You'll either absorb it or deflect it with grace, and sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing loud. Just breathe, just listen, just be a calm presence. You don't have to fix everything, you don't have to prove anything. You just need to stay rooted in peace, because that peace will speak for you. It'll show in your posture, in your eye contact, in the way you pause before you speak, and that silence, that pause, that's not emptiness. That's control, that's wisdom, that's choosing to respond instead of react, and over time, that becomes your legacy. Not just what you did or said, but how you made people feel, how you made them feel safe. Heard, understood, not because you solved their problems, but because you didn't let their problems knock you off center. That centeredness gave them permission to breathe again, to hope again, to calm down, not because they were forced to, but because they saw what peace looked like in you. We often chase influence, success, recognition, but the truth is, one of the most powerful things you can be in this world is someone whose presence quiets the noise. That doesn't come from titles, it comes from self-mastery, from knowing your worth without needing applause, from walking slowly when the world rushes, from being light when the room gets heavy. That's what Emotional Aikido gives you, not just the tools to survive stress, but the presence to shift atmospheres. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need validation, because it's built on truth, the kind that doesn't shout, but can't be ignored. That's what peace looks like when you live it, not just in your mind, but in your presence, and when you become that person, your presence is the message.